Hey everybody. So today we're going to talk about another goddess asteroid. We're going to talk about Ceres. I'm not going to go too much into her mythology just because that'd be really long. But there does need to be just a tiny bit of backstory tiny bit of it thrown in just to kind of make what she represents make sense. She is thought of as like the Great Mother. She and her daughter Persephone were very close, and Pluto, the god of the underworld, who was also Persephone's uncle, which makes this story fucking gross. But he wanted Persephone for himself, so he abducted her and took her down to the underworld. This pissed Ceres off, rightfully so. It pissed her off. So while she was gone, Ceres made the earth barren, like crops couldn't grow, because she missed her daughter and she wanted her daughter back. So they finally, a truce had to be called, essentially, because Ceres was fucking the earth up with crops not being able to grow. And well, really, it was Pluto fucking things up because it's Pluto's bullshit that caused all this in the first place. But, they had to come to a truce where essentially half the year, Persephone would be with Ceres, and the other half of the year she would be in the underworld with Pluto. So that's kind of where Ceres gets her notion of being the Great Mother, because she loved her daughter so much. Yeah, that's kind of where that comes from. So Ceres in the natal chart tends to represent similar sorts of themes. We're talking mothering and the way one mothers. And also, men and people that identify as male can also be mothering and nurturing too. So this isn't just something to look at in a female or somebody that identifies as female's natal chart. You want to look at it in a male's chart too, because males can be mothering and nurturing as well. So looking at Ceres in the natal chart can give you an idea of how you might, by sign, how you might mother, how you might nurture other people, or even yourself, depending on where Ceres falls, in the chart. Kind of, give you an idea of where or what area of life you nurture in or through. But the how is, how you the sign is how you nurture, the sign that Ceres falls in. Ceres is also not only the way that you mother and nurture, but also the way that you need to be mothered and nurtured too, as well. What you actually need in this regard. Sometimes, like when we were growing up as children, sometimes we got what we needed nurture wise, sometimes we did not. Aspects made to Ceres would kind of give you an idea as to how that plays out, if the person maybe got what they needed or maybe didn't get what they needed, in those sorts of terms. Ceres can also represent separation and attachment, or attachment and separation. She can show the ways that we attach to things and the ways that we separate from things. She also can rule over like nurturing with food. Food is definitely something that plays in with Ceres, because Ceres fucked up all the crops when her daughter, was gone. She fucked them all up, and I don't blame her. Like, shit, if I had the power to do that and somebody fucked with my child, I'd probably do the same thing. So, I don't blame her. But yeah, food, things having to do with food. Perhaps too much, nurturing too much. They're nurturing, through food that way, or even denying nurturing of food. That's possible too, depending on the sign that we're talking about, the house it falls in, and aspects made. Sharing, the way that we share, is another thing that Ceres can tie in with, because she had to, essentially a truce had to be called between her and Pluto, where they shared Persephone. So the way that we share, or the way that we don't share, can come through with Ceres as well. So all of those things play in with Ceres, what she represents. Will she represent all of those things in one person's natal chart? Maybe not. Only a couple of those whats might fit, or all of them might fit, or only one of them might fit. It just really depends on the entire chart. But those are themes of whats, you know, the planet being what needs to be expressed. This is an asteroid, but you'd want to read it in the same kind of way as to what needs to be expressed. So these are the things that are needing to be expressed through Ceres. Now, to give you an idea of how Ceres functions, I mentioned this in like the Juno and the Palace videos, but you'd want to look at, okay, I'll show you my chart as an example. Okay, if you look right above the moon, you'll see a glyph for a sickle with a cross at the bottom, what looks like a sickle with a cross at the bottom. A sickle with a cross at the bottom, Jesus, okay. That is the glyph for Ceres. Now, my Ceres is in Capricorn. So you'd want to look at the planetary ruler of Capricorn. That is Saturn. Saturn is in the first in Sagittarius. There aren't any major aspects made between my Ceres and Saturn. So I think of that as like a neutral thing. It's not really like an easy thing or a challenging thing. It just kind of is. That doesn't really give a whole lot of information as to how Ceres might function for me. But like if let's say my Ceres was trine Saturn, that might show more of an ease in, say, nurturing other people or nurturing myself or whatever. That might show more of an ease there. If Saturn was square Ceres, that might show more of a challenge in that regard. Not universal, but some things to consider. Now, also, you want to look at, make sure that, you know, check, like, I'll show you again. Like, okay, my Ceres is conjunct my moon, like within a degree. So that means that Ceres is going to flavor my moon. Probably softens my moon in Capricorn a little bit. I know it does. I know it probably does. But definitely look and see if Ceres is conjunct any natal planets, because it will flavor that natal planet in a nurturing way, or in a sharing way, or in a mothering way. All of these, you know, sorts of Ceres notions will flavor that planet via conjunction. I would use, this is just my opinion, opinions are like assholes, but I would use an orb for aspects with Ceres. I would use an orb of like 3 degrees applying or separating. You might be like, no, I want to widen it, or no, I only want to use orbs within a degree. That's fine, you know, whatever. Whatever you feel called to do in that regard is totally fine. But that is what I do. I tend to use an orb of 3 applying or separating from a natal planet. If you're looking at like other asteroids, like Ceres conjunct another asteroid, like let's say Ceres conjunct, I don't know, Juno, I would make that orb even smaller personally, like maybe within 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees. I'd bring it in even more. Ceres, if you're a parent, Ceres, it's really cool to look and see where Ceres is in your child's chart. I think you know, I've done some parent-child synastry work. I know that some astrologers don't believe you should do that. I disagree with that. I think you can. With parents and children, you just have to you have to switch the lens, right? This isn't an equal relationship. You are the parent, meaning that the burden of any issues in the relationship when the child is a child fall on the parent to make them right. It does, you know. So it's not an equal relationship synastry, like, you know, a marriage partnership or... Anyway, I think you can. You just have to change the lens. But I think it is so important to look at where your child's Ceres is, because it will give you an idea as to how your child needs to be nurtured. Obviously, you'd want to take the entire chart into account. It's not just Ceres that you're looking at. But, you know, if your child has Ceres in, say, I don't know, say Leo. They've got Ceres and Leo. They might need to be nurtured in more bold or theatrical ways. You know, like they might need that kind of nurturing. They might really nurture through play, be nurtured through play. This might be a child that really needs that. Versus, I don't know, let's say your child has Ceres and Gemini. I'm not taking houses into account right now because these are all just like in my mind and making shit up. But let's say your child has Ceres and Gemini. That child might be nurtured through communication, through talking. You know, they might really need to be talked to. They might not do well with a parent that doesn't talk as much. So if you've got Ceres and Gemini, or if your child has Ceres and Gemini, and maybe if you don't feel like you talk as much as you should, maybe you should talk more, because that might be a way that they're nurtured. And again, there are lots of different ways that Ceres and Gemini can go, but you know, that is certainly something that I would look at. And definitely, yeah, I think it's a fun thing to do just in general, just to look and see where that is in your child's chart, to get an idea of what they actually need, what actually would be best for them in this regard. And then try to, you know, look at where your own Ceres is and see how perhaps you naturally nurture or mother, and see if that kind of lines up. And if it doesn't line up, if they're not similar, obviously you are the parent, so you tailor what your child needs. You know what I mean? Like, again, the burden falls on the parent. And I don't mean burden in a bad, but you know what I mean. I hope you know what I mean when I say that. But yeah. So, that is Ceres. I think that's pretty good. I think I've covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Yeah. Okay. Well, I am going to get going. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Let's Fuck With Astrology. I am at Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Natalie is at Paternal Astrology on Instagram. If you want to like or subscribe or whatever the fuck people do with videos on YouTube, you can find us by searching for Let's Fuck With Astrology in the YouTube search bar. If you are already watching this on YouTube, you can subscribe if you have not, and like or whatever. If you do the Reddit thing, come join us on the subreddit Let's Fuck With Astrology. And if you're interested in the star cards, go to letsfuckwithastrology.com/star-cards. Okay, y'all. I'll see y'all later.